Okay, so today we're diving deep into a topic that I find super fascinating. We're looking back at the titans of industry, those giants who shaped the American landscape. The Rockefellers and Carnegies of the world.
Yeah, these guys were the original disruptors, right? Built empires from scratch.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is how their legacies are reflected in the billionaires of today. Think Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg.
It's like, are these guys just following the same playbook, or have they found a whole new game?
That's what we're going to unpack today. We've got a pretty impressive lineup to cover. We'll be talking about Howard Hughes, Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, J. Paul Getty, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Sam Walton.
Quite the list. The names practically echo through history.
Right. And we'll be comparing them with their modern-day counterparts.
So let's kick things off with a guy who really knew how to move things. Cornelius Vanderbilt. This guy, they called him the Commodore, built a railroad empire that basically redefined travel in the 19th century. Oh yeah, Vanderbilt, he was a force of nature. Ruthless, ambitious, but also a visionary. He understood the power of connecting people and goods like never before.
And that's where the comparison with Elon Musk and SpaceX gets really interesting, right? It's like that same drive to push the boundaries of what's possible in transportation, connecting the world in ways no one thought of before. Except now, it's not just about railroads, it's about rockets.
And it's not just about the technology either. Vanderbilt was a master strategist. He realized that if you want to control the market, you got to control the infrastructure. So he went after key rail lines, bridges, you name it. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, absolutely. Like Amazon investing heavily in their own logistics networks, delivery systems. It's the same principle, just a different era.
Right, you got to build the systems that make the vision a reality.
Speaking of systems and visions, let's talk about John D. Rockefeller and Standard Oil. They basically had a stranglehold on the energy industry back in the day. You can't help but see some parallels with today's tech giants, right? I mean, Bezos with Amazon, Zuckerberg with Meta.
Oh yeah, the parallels are definitely there. Rockefeller was all about vertical integration. He wanted to control every single step, from pulling the oil out of the ground to refining it and getting it into people's hands.
And let's not forget, he wasn't afraid to use some, let's say, aggressive tactics to push out the competition.
Understatement of the century. But yeah, we're seeing shades of that today. Think about how Amazon has expanded into pretty much every sector you can imagine, often undercutting prices to gain market share.
It's like history repeating itself, but with algorithms instead of oil. And speaking of history repeating itself, Rockefeller faced a ton of criticism for his business practices, right? Accusations of predatory pricing, basically wiping out competitors.
Oh, totally. And we're seeing those same debates play out today. Are companies like Amazon using their size and influence to stifle competition, or are they just really good at what they do? It's a tricky question. There are strong arguments on both sides.
And honestly, those are arguments that were happening 100 years ago, too. It's fascinating how these same issues keep popping up in different forms. But it wasn't all cutthroat competition and empire building back then. A lot of these guys, like Andrew Carnegie, had a philanthropic side too. He poured his fortune into libraries, educational institutions, all sorts of things. He really believed in the power of knowledge to change lives.
Yeah, Carnegie, he was a fascinating guy, came from humble beginnings, and then built this incredible fortune. But he also believed in giving back. His whole philosophy was to empower people through education, give them the tools to succeed.
It reminds me of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right?
Yeah.
Taking on these huge global challenges like poverty and disease. It's that same kind of big picture thinking.
And it's interesting how their approaches to philanthropy reflect their backgrounds, right? Carnegie, he was all about providing access to knowledge, that classic self-made man ideal.
Yeah, like he wanted to give people the tools to fish, so to speak.
Exactly. Whereas the Gates Foundation takes more of a systemic approach, focusing on those root causes of global problems, like investing in disease prevention, agricultural research. They're trying to create solutions that will last.
Totally. It's about building a better fishing ecosystem rather than just handing out fishing rods. It's a different kind of thinking, but still focused on improving lives.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of changing the game, let's shift gears and talk about production and consumption. No one can deny the impact Henry Ford had with his assembly line. He revolutionized manufacturing and made cars affordable for the average person. And then you've got Sam Walton with Walmart following a similar path, bringing low-cost goods to the masses.
And it's amazing how those ideas, efficiency, accessibility are still at the heart of innovation today. You think about Amazon, their whole obsession with optimizing logistics and using automation. They're basically taking Ford's assembly line concept and putting it on steroids.
It's like they've cracked the code on how to deliver anything, anywhere at lightning speed. Pretty impressive, actually. Okay, now for the wild cards. Howard Hughes and J. Paul Getty, both incredibly wealthy, obviously, but also known for their eccentricities, reclusiveness, and, well, let's just say unconventional ways of doing business. Do you see any of those traits in today's tech billionaires?
Well, some parallels for sure. Many of them are fiercely private, protective of their personal lives, which, is understandable given the level of fame and scrutiny they face.
Oh, absolutely. But the world they live in is so different from Hughes or Getty's time. Social media, 24/7 news. You can't really escape the public eye anymore.
Right. The pressure is constant. I mean, imagine every tweet, every Instagram post being analyzed and dissected by millions of people. It's got to have some impact on how they operate, both in business and in their personal lives.
It makes you wonder what those guys would have been like if they had to deal with Twitter trolls and paparazzi drones. So what's the big takeaway here? Are today's billionaires just following the blueprint laid out by those industrial giants? Or are they carving out their own paths?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, the echoes of those historical figures are all over our economy, our technology, our whole culture, really.
Like we're still living in the world they shaped in a lot of ways.
Exactly. So understanding how they operated, the challenges they faced, the decisions they made, it's all incredibly relevant today. But at the same time, the world is changing faster than ever before. Technology is evolving at a breakneck pace, and the challenges facing these modern-day billionaires are unique in their own way.
It's almost like they're writing a whole new chapter in the book of industrial giants, but with a digital twist.
And that's what's really exciting. We get to see how they navigate these uncharted waters.
And what kind of legacy they'll leave behind. Like Howard Hughes,
Oh, wow.
Andrew Carnegie,
Okay.
John D. Rockefeller,
Uh-huh.
Aristotle Onassis.
Big names, yeah.
I mean, these guys, they weren't just rich.
No.
They, built industries.
Shape the world.
Yeah, they shaped the modern world.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the book brings it to the present.
Okay.
With people like Elon Musk,
Right.
Jeff Bezos,
Of course.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay, yeah, so like the new titans
Yeah.
of industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it tries to draw some interesting parallels between them.
Right.
And, I think one of the things that stood out to me most
Yeah.
is this idea of a shared secret sauce, like we were saying.
Oh, yeah, the secret sauce.
That these billionaires
Yeah.
across different times and industries all seem to have.
Right, like some common thread
Yeah.
that connects them all.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, for instance, the book talks about how these people, they all had a crazy strong work ethic.
Yeah, like they were all grinders.
Oh, yeah, for
Like
sure.
workaholics almost.
Yeah, like Howard Hughes, apparently.
What did he do?
Well, he was known to completely disappear for days on end.
Really?
Locked away in his workshop or on set.
Wow.
Just laser focused on whatever project he was obsessed with at the time.
So like no sleep?
Pretty much. And the
Yeah.
book actually mentions this story about how he built this whole temporary city.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, basically just to accommodate a film shoot.
Oh, wow, that's intense.
Yeah, talk about dedication.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it makes you wonder if you see that same kind of intensity
Right.
in today's billionaires.
Yeah,
Like Elon Musk with his crazy hours at Tesla and SpaceX.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Or even Bezos, his whole thing with making Amazon the most efficient machine on the planet.
It's like they're all obsessed with their work in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just a job.
No, it's like their life's mission.
Yeah. And the book even goes as far as saying that a lot of these billionaires, they kind of had this almost supernatural ability to predict the future.
What, like they were fortune tellers?
No, not like that, but
Okay.
they were able to see what was coming
Okay.
before anyone else.
So like they were ahead of their time.
Exactly. They just knew which way the wind was blowing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they were ready to pounce when the opportunity came.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, couldn't you say that some of that is just being in the right place at the right time? Oh, for sure.
Take Carnegie.
Yeah.
He made a fortune in steel.
Right.
But that was also because the Industrial Revolution was happening.
Oh, yeah. He was definitely in the right place at the right time.
Right. And does the book talk about that at all?
It does, yeah. It acknowledges that luck and timing
Yeah.
play a huge role.
Okay.
But it also makes the point that these billionaires, They were prepared.
Oh.
Like, they weren't just sitting around waiting for something to happen.
Right.
They were actively looking for opportunities.
Nice.
So when they saw one, they were ready to seize it.
Yeah. So they had the foresight and the drive.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I do wonder, though, if that same level of, like, intense focus that worked for them back then, would it still work today?
That's a good question.
Like, the world moves so much faster now.
It does.
And those guys back then, they had years, sometimes decades, to build their empires.
They're a very different landscape now.
Yeah.
Things move so fast.
Exactly.
So what do you think? Like, do you think all this stuff, the work ethic, the vision, the timing, is it really the key to becoming a billionaire?
That's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely part of it.
Right.
But is it the whole story?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, could someone have all the talent and drive in the world and still totally miss out?
Yeah. If they're just born at the wrong time.
Exactly. Or if they just don't get that lucky break.
Right. It makes you think.
It really does.
Like, we tend to focus on the individual.
Right.
The hard work, the genius. But maybe we're overlooking the role of just plain luck.
Or maybe even the systems that are in place.
Right.
That make it easier for some people to become billionaires than others.
Yeah. There's definitely a bigger conversation to be had there.
For sure.
About privilege and opportunity.
Yeah.
And how that all factors in.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting, though, thinking about these titans of industry, like both the past and the present. Yeah. It kind of makes you question our whole definition of success.
It does?
Like, is it really all about the money?
Right.
Or is there something more to it?
Yeah, like what kind of legacy are these people leaving behind?
Right. Like, what's the impact on the world beyond just their wealth?
That's a great point.
And honestly, that's something that this excerpt really doesn't get into.
It doesn't.
No, it's more focused on, like, the individual traits.
Yeah.
But it does kind of leave you wondering.
It does.
Like, what is the bigger picture here?
Yeah.
And how do we measure true success?
Well, I think that's a perfect place to leave it.
Yeah.
For our listeners to ponder.
Lots to think about.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of billionaires.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
So keep exploring, keep questioning. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to crack the code.
The billionaire code.
Exactly.
That'd be nice.
All right. So as you go about your day, consider this. What impact will today's tech titans have on the future? And what will their story tell generations to come?